Hello, welcome, Science 6. Sorry, it's been a little bit. Uh, Test went well. I think for most people, I'll have that graded by, I want to say Friday night, but it'll be graded this weekend for sure. This is going to be a shorter video because just how the section broke up, but I'm going to plan to do another short video, right after this. So we're starting a new section. It's chapter 14, I believe. Yep, chapter 14, and it is the nervous system. Okay, so we'll be talking about really what makes our body be able to go, because the nervous system is huge, not huge. It is huge in our body, and it is very important. And it's just so important and so amazing, actually. So we'll get started. The first word is going to be paperclip. Okay, first word is paperclip. All right, as we talk about the nervous system, just think when you hear nervous system, what do you think about? Okay, and you might think of, oh, nervous, when someone's nervous, or for me, I think of our nerves, okay, our nerves, which is what allows us to feel, okay, and, if you touch something that's really hot, that's what causes that reaction, our nerves. And so when we think about it, right now, you're sitting there. What do you smell or feel or hear or see? Think about, or taste. Think about your senses, okay? I just want you to stop for a second and again, think. What does my body feel like? Is the air cold? Is it hot? Is what you're sitting on hard or soft? Does it hurt? What are you seeing? Well, hopefully this video, but look around and, see what you see. Just think what you taste if you just ate something. What am I missing? Smell. Did you fart? Did something smell bad? Did the dog fart? Or is someone cooking something that smells good? And what do you hear going on? Right now, I hear the heat because I'm in the office and the system's really loud. I think it's the computer systems, actually. Okay, so take a second and do that, or a minute. And so, like, our senses are how we, experience things, but it would all be pointless if we didn't have our nervous system. And God created us in such a way that we have these amazing senses to experience creation, to observe the beauty of his creation, and to interact with everything that God has created. But again, all of those senses would be useless without an amazing nervous system that he also created, very complex, that allows us to react and respond to our environment. And so our nervous system that God made us with is a complicated network that gathers, processes, and interprets information. Okay, so the nervous system, the nervous system is a complicated network that gathers, processes, and interprets information. Okay, so if we think about it, right, our senses are taking in information. Okay, and then our nervous system is responsible for that too. And then the gathering, right, our nervous system, right, processing and interpreting the information of what we see and then acting on it. And we'll get into it more. But for example, when we smell something good, all right, it's our nervous system that's allowing us to really respond to that and process it. Oh, that smell, right? If it's a certain smell that oh, I know that means my mom is making something, bacon. And then if you go to the bacon, that's, again, your nervous system. It takes in that scent, it processes, that's what that is, and then it gives action, you respond to it. Okay? It's hard to even realize everything that your nervous system does, because a lot of it happens without you ever thinking like, oh, I need to do this. For example, you've been breathing this whole time, hopefully, and you haven't once had to think, oh, I need to breathe. I need to breathe. Okay. You're just living your life and somehow you're constantly breathing. Your heartbeat, right? Again, sitting here, feeling the temperature of the air or what you're sitting on. You don't have to think about that stuff to happen. So that's how amazing your nervous system is, and it's acting all the time without you realizing it. So that's the background, and we're going to get into the structure a little bit and the parts of the nervous system. And then before I go into too much detail about the parts, I am going to stop and I'm going to make a separate video so you can watch just that one about the parts. So we'll talk about the structure. The structure of the nervous system is divided, or there's not divided, but there's two different divisions to the nervous system, okay? The names for our two divisions are going to be our central nervous system and our peripheral nervous system. Okay, and a way I can relate this, hopefully, is that, you know, the central is kind of that core main part, okay, and the peripheral is on kind of the outskirts. Both are very, very important. But if we think about our sight, if you've ever heard someone say in your peripherals, our peripherals is going to be kind of what's on the outside, and our central view would be right in front of us, okay? So the central, it has two parts to it. So we're going to break it down. Okay, so let me go back. So two divisions of the nervous system. We have our central nervous system and we have our peripheral nervous system, okay? If we break that down even more, we have in our central nervous system, we have two main things, and that is going to be the brain and the spinal cord, okay? So central nervous system consists of the brain and the spinal cord. Our central nervous system makes decisions and it controls the body's actions, right? When our brain fires, it causes a reaction. It causes our bodies to do something, okay? The peripheral nervous system consists of millions of nerve cells that communicate with the central nervous system about what's going on around the body, okay? And so the peripheral nervous system consists of millions of nerve cells that communicate with the central nervous system about what goes on around the body. Okay, so for example, our peripheral nervous system is going to be our feeling and our senses and stuff, right? If you touch a stove top, the peripheral nervous system is feeling that. Whoa, that's hot. Okay, and it is sending that message to the central nervous system. The central nervous system is like, oh my goodness, that's really hot. We are going to get hurt. Our body is going to get hurt. Move the hand away. And it fires to our muscles to, whoa, that was really hot. Okay. So we see that really the peripheral is the feeling of the stimulus, okay, of the things around us. But it doesn't tell us how to feel about that. So it has to send what's happening to the brain and the spinal cord. But the brain and spinal cord, our central nervous system, tells us how do we feel about that and how do we act about it, okay? So the gathering of the information is more from the peripheral, and then the processing and acting on and interpretation of it is more of the central nervous system, okay? So yes, so first of all, about the brain, which I'm going to break down the brain a little more in the second video, like I said. So within the brain, okay, that's going to be our command center, okay? That's our organizer, that's our storage of memories, how do we respond to things, right? If you are running and working out and you think, oh, I'm going to sprint, like that's what's causing your muscles to fire. It's the command center, it's the organization and the interpretation of life. Like I said, in the peripheral system is more of the gathering of the information. The brain is going to be controlling our actions, it's going to control our speech, and it's going to influence even our emotions. Okay, like I said, we may be gathering with our nervous system or our peripheral nervous system, but then our brain is going to be telling us how do we actually feel about that, right? If if you like someone and you've been messaging them and they're being rude or weird, or someone's just being mean, our central nervous system is kind of like, okay, how do I really feel about that based on what's happening? The other thing about it, right, is how complex it is and how much stuff it does. You'd think like, well, that has to be really big. Computers do amazing things. And the brain is kind of our body's computer, but it's more unique and complex than any computer, any man-made thing ever has been and will be. And for a computer to be able to do something even close to what our brain is doing, it would have to be much bigger. And so with all the stuff our brain does, you'd think, whoa, that needs to be pretty big, but it's actually only about 3 pounds, which is pretty small. If you find something that's about 3 pounds, and you'll realize that's not very heavy. And so how valuable it is, it needs protection. And so we have our skull, and some people have harder skulls than others to protect it, but it does a pretty good job. Also within the skull, there's a fluid, and it's called cerebrospinal fluid. And if you think about maybe something in a container, if you shake it around, it's going to hit really hard, right? So if our brain was in there with no fluid and we shake our head, well, then our brain might bounce around and hit the skull, which is going to damage our brain. That's kind of how concussions happen. But since there's some fluid in there, if you put, maybe if you put a plastic ball in a cup and you shake it around, okay, that ball is going to hit the sides pretty hard. Well, then if you put some water in, sorry. Okay, sorry for the interruption. I'm in the office, as you see, and so I've been kind of letting people in and out and answering some questions as the secretary. So, I'm thinking about trading spots with Mrs. Haldeman and having her. She can teach you guys, and I can be the secretary. But I don't know if she would go for that. Anyway, so, okay, I think I was talking about if you had a plastic ball in a cup and you shook it around, the ball's going to rattle all over. Well, if you put some liquid in there, put some water in there, and then you shake it around, the water helps to absorb the impact. And that's how the spinal fluid works in our brain too. As our brain gets batted around a little bit, the fluid helps to cushion it from getting damaged. And that's a very good thing. Sometimes if we get too hard though, our brain does get bruised a little bit, and that's how a concussion happens. And concussions can be really bad or not too bad, and it just kind of depends. And it's very important to protect your brain. So if you think you have a concussion, take it easy. I'm going to be showing you again, the next video will have more details about the brain, the parts of the brain, what it looks like. But an example is like a wrinkly walnut, okay? So it kind of looks like a walnut, but it's got wrinkled spots all over it, and there's certain specific parts, and the different parts do different things. So for the parts of the brain, there are 3 main parts, and that's going to be our cerebrum, our cerebellum, and the brain stem. Okay, there's other parts in those parts, but the 3 main are the cerebrum, cerebellum, and the brain stem. And they each have different functions, but just like a sports team or a school, there's different parts have to work together so that things can function correctly, so that you and your body, you can go throughout life and experience life in the correct way. And if there's one thing that doesn't function right, then that can kind of throw off all the other ones, and somebody or some different part has to pick up the slack. So just an introduction, and you can see that our brain, even though it's only about 3 pounds, it's small. And hey, some people smaller than others if they don't, they don't think too well. So off of that, you can see how amazing of a design that God has created for us to enjoy life in His creation, and how something so small can be so complex. And it is just an amazing feature that God has created for us. So I will be sending out the next video shortly, probably later today, because again, they are 2 short videos. Second word is going to be stapler. Have a good day.